beyond when you're like on call, it was measured on a weekly basis. Like, you meet your manager on a weekly basis and it's measured if you're like exceeding, meeting, or like not meeting the expectations the manager has set out. But at a startup, it's not measured on a weekly basis, it's measured on a daily basis. So like if like there are goals you discuss in the morning that, hey, you need to do these like 5 things or sometimes 10 things or 3 things, you have to like push yourself to meet them. And there's more pressure to achieving them because you have a lot more ownership. And you pretty much own end-to-end of whatever you're working on. For example, let's say I'm owning a hackathon that I'm organizing this weekend. Like it's called Build Matcha, Build Code. Like you build your own matcha, build your own code.
So
I
cool.
own like promoting, marketing, and like planning the hackathon, being innovative with it, choosing the companies to partner with, like having constant meetings with them, figuring out the supplies, and all the dynamics you have to own.
So you're wearing like all the hats.
Yeah. And now, since like all the pressure is on me to have it possible this Saturday, I have to like work. Not working is not an option because deadline is this Saturday.
Wow.
So the pressure is higher, but since it's more fulfilling work, because like I think I was like a bit fed up of engineering, and that's why I enjoy it way more. I'm having a more fulfilling day, I'll say.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a change, but a good one.
100%.
You switched jobs in one of the toughest job markets we've seen, and you moved to Silicon Valley. How hard was it to do so?
I thought it would be easier, but I didn't know that it's extremely hard to land a job in Silicon Valley. I thought like Silicon Valley is the land of opportunities. It'll be extremely easy, but it was absolutely opposite. It was extremely hard. I left Microsoft like 8 months ago. I moved here. I kept on applying online to a bunch of companies. I applied to 200 companies, got 10 interviews scheduled and all 10 rejected. And most of the reason that I got rejected was that I applied first for engineering roles, and I figured out that, by doing 100 lead code problems today, I would be able to ace them. But no, the problems they ask are very unstandardized. They're not standardized. So think about big tech. When you applied for Microsoft, Google, like Meta, etc., interview processes standardized. Like, they're going to ask you like lead code hard, medium. But when you apply for a startup, they can ask you anything. They can ask you hash map collision strategy, which I had completely forgotten. I studied in college and now completely forgot about it. Or they can ask you about, or do a system design of Bitly and do all the mathematics that's needed so there are no collisions in that, like, bunch of links you create. So these tough problems require a lot of in-depth knowledge. And I realized that I needed like at least 1 month more to prepare, like reading the system design book, doing 100 more mock interviews because the intensity of the job market is at the peak. I see Reddit blogs every day that people are struggling to find jobs even 8 months after trying and interviewing. Then I realized, hold on, let's try DevRel. Maybe engineering is not for me. I might think about engineering later. So then with DevRel, you don't need to do engineering. You need to know engineering basics, but not need to do it. And that's why I pursued it and got a work trial, not an interview, and got it pretty easily. And I was considering another DevRel company. I won't name it here. It was a big tech. Right now, I wanted to work for a startup, so I was just prioritizing startups.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like DevRel is like the perfect fit for you.
Both like a little bit of development experience you need and a little bit of like, marketing experience. And it's really fun. It's a good hybrid approach.
Yeah, that's so fun. Speaking of a tough job market, do you have any thoughts on the recent layoffs from companies like Meta and Oracle?
So this is really interesting what's happening. Big banks, they made a bank in the last quarter. In January 2026, they said AI is not going to affect your job market. And by April, they announced 10,000 layoffs, most of the big banks. And what's happening is we are living in an inflection point after Claude Opus 4.5. Now Claude Opus 4.7 is there. That inflection point is so big that like most of the engineers I know in Silicon Valley, including Spotify, you talk about in your videos, that they haven't been doing code with hand for the last 4 months, like even 5 months now. Since November to now, like no one is coding with hand. They're using Claude Code or agentic terminals to code. So because of that, I think the productivity has skyrocketed, and engineers with like who have like nailed down their syntax abilities, like TypeScript. Like we have become very language agnostic. Think about an engineer who just learned Python. They know how to reverse his list, or they know a basic for loop. Or think about an engineer who did the same in TypeScript or web development or changing a button, who spent years on perfecting that skill. That's completely gone. So the core skill now, which is more important, is engineering, scaling big systems, scaling from 1,000 users to 10,000 users. So your system is ready on cloud platforms or bare metal. These questions are more important than before. So people who do not have enough experience with like scaling, cloud engineering are struggling the most, because when I went to college, even 2016, 2020, scaling and system design and these intensive systems were not even introduced. But now colleges are being introduced. So people who have like older college skills but did not get the right work experience now are struggling the most. So that's why like people need to like nail down their system development, like system design skills way more than coding skills. That's what I think. What are your thoughts?
No, I 100% agree. I think as AI basically makes knowing syntax and knowing leak code easy, medium, hard more obsolete, it becomes more and more important to know the big picture, know how components fit together, because you can write, any AI can reverse a linked list or balance the binary tree. But I feel like sometimes if you don't prompt right, or if you don't like know actually the system that you're building, you will end up with a solution that technically works for one use case, but then completely falls apart as you scale or as you add more components in.
100%.
You mentioned that you specifically were looking for startups to join, right? Do you think that startups adopt AI quicker than big companies, or was there a particular reason why you really want to join a startup?
First of all, I'm working on a very small startup. It's like a seed. They have just raised a seed round. So startups work differently, as if like they don't have much bureaucracy, first of all. And other reason is that they use the latest, greatest tools that I wanted to try. For example, I will give an example. Like Linear, we use not Atlassian. It's a new product I'm getting to try. Superhuman, we use not Gmail or Outlook. So we use Claude Code, not VS Code. So all these experiences and getting people to know what are these latest, greatest tools doing and are they worth trying. This is not just an experience to like work for a smaller company, but also to try different tools and how they work and how they integrate, and to figure out AI is actually adding value to our lives or not. So for example, like in our startup, like we have installed a OpenClaw instance. We're running an OpenClaw instance. It was before OpenClaw, now it's Hermes. So with Hermes, like we can ask Hermes, give me access to this GitHub repo. I don't have access. I just joined. I'll just ask to that AI chatbot, it'll give me access. So that OpenClaw Mac Mini is really powerful and I'm able to get use of it. So trying that Mac Mini, setting up that Mac Mini, which we read on Twitter, and actually implementing for your startup is really fun.
Nice.
You would never get that experience in any big tech.
Yeah, it's the permissions hard thing. I'm also just curious. So you mentioned like OpenClaw. I know it's a really, really powerful tool, but also you have to be very cautious about security. How does your startup make it so someone random can't like hack your security credentials or things like that?
Security is a big concern, you're right. But for that, we're using NemoClaw. We use NemoClaw because that was with guardrails from OpenClaw. And with Hermes, we try to add as many guardrails as possible. For example, it never gives admin access by default. It only gives read-only access. It can onboard you pretty much to 90%, but the remaining 10% we have to do through humans. So it's a pros and cons. If we give like 100% access to GitHub to a new hire,